Black, gray, red, yellow, white, blue, green. These planets, the planetary energies, are color-oriented. They're formulated by the colors. The colors are the planets. That's the key understanding or the key concept that I want to accentuate and center. So we can mix planets without even using their glyphs, without even putting them in a horoscope. We can mix the planets just showing them as colors. So the color associations, where do they come from? They come from our ancient astrological texts, all the way back. You go to those oldest texts, you pick up two texts, Vedius Valens, as translated by any of the translators, and Tusser of Babylon, translated by James Holden, is the main translation we have. Tusser and Valens assign the planets to these colors, to this color scheme, and they both do it. They both have the same assignations. There's some subtle differences, for example, light gray versus gray only. And so there is some creative license that anyone can take when you decide to assign planets to colors. You don't even have to use these ancient associations. You can use any association that you want. My sense is that you would want to go with these primary colors. And so I think going with the ancient color significations is actually kind of core in my view, because those are the core colors of reality. The primary is black and white and gray. What's so interesting to me about this arrangement is we're looking at the core colors of reality, the foundational colors of the palette. And that's what astrology is. We're looking at the foundational energetics of reality through the archetypes of the 7 traditional planets. This is the theory behind astrological magic, right? Everything you have around you is comprised of a mix of planetary energy. And that's why when you want to make a talisman, you try to get things that are pure Venus, for example, or pure Jupiter. In this case, we can look at a canvas of colors and mix them together and see a moment of reality expressed through these primary colors and these fundamental colors and a palette and a mix of those colors. In astrology, we have something called rulership, which is each of the signs of the zodiac are assigned planetary rulers. And for me, what's important for a work like this is using something called whole sign rulership, where if a planet is in a 30-degree segment, it doesn't matter which degree it's in, that ruler would be the same. And these are triplicity lords, domicile lords, and exaltation lords. These are the whole sign rulers. And this is just something I've elected to paint with. You can come up with your own version of painting. You can use your own version of rulership. You can weight the proportions of the colors however you see fit. For me, I like whole sign rulership because it's elegance. It's a sign-based model, not a degree-based model. You don't need to obsess about which degree or where or which degree minute. All you have to say is a planet in the sign? Then that sign is triggered proportionally with a certain batch of colors that we're going to add to our mix, to our painting, and then we make these works of art. So I've decided to have two canvases, two styles that will always be available on my website. You load the site produces two works of art upon being loaded. And that's also what kind of interests me in the moment we're in now. We can use code and the web to produce art at any moment in time just by clicking a refresh button or loading a web page. But I'm gonna have two canvases that reflect the moment in time using this particular formula that I've derived using whole sign rulers to then outlay a color arrangement. The first canvas is one where you list the colors in Chaldean order. And it's so beautiful to see, actually. You can have a color representation of Chaldean order. Black on the top, gray below, that's Saturn and Jupiter. Then you have Mars red, then you have yellow for the sun, then you have white, that beautiful white Venus, then you have blue for Mercury, and then green at the base of the Chaldean order. Look around, look at all the green. This is the lowest base of our reality. The Earth is green, Mercury blue, but then that base of reality is green. And so Chaldean order, the ancient way, the Greeks, the ancient Greco philosophers viewed reality with the planetary spheres that we descend into, and we pass through these filters. The lowest filter is the moon in those systems, and the color assignation is green, which is the lowest filter around us. Now you might say blue is lower because of the sea, I get that, but for most people when you're on Earth, you're not sleeping on the sea. Most people are sleeping on the ground and the grass, and so green is that base. Green is everywhere around us. This is, by the way, why artists and painters in the Renaissance period considered green a primary color, because when you look around, green is everywhere. Green is just everywhere. It's primary to the reality. And so then the other canvas is not these planetary proportions of color filtered from high to low in Chaldean order. The other canvas is pure random. So all I do is generate how many pixels of black, gray, and so on I want to include in this color square and randomly apportion those pixels onto the canvas. What does randomness do? Randomness is kind of the nature of reality. We live in a random reality. Randomness is part of everything. I love doing randomness. It's kind of a divinatory space where we, for example, in tarot, throw cards through sortilege randomly. I often do divination with my random number generators, but this allows a kind of random splay. You really can see if there's like a dominant period of Venus like we're in now. Venus Venus dominates things, you see a lot of white in that randomness. You know, or if there's an absence of a color, that will become clear. But you can take your pick. You want random, you want something that's ordered and grounded in the planetary sphere theory of the Chaldean order. So these are the two ways I've decided to represent these moments of time through planetary color, and I'm calling them color squares or planetary color squares. So why pixel art? Well, I like numbers. I mean, I've studied mathematics. I love the notion of the 144. You see it embedded in all my branding. SJ Anderson 144. That's my handle on X, on YouTube, on all the other platforms that I've been on before that I'm not on anymore. But 144 is a brilliant number. It reflects the nature of existence. It's a Fibonacci number, which when the trees splay out, as you've seen around in this video, those are all Fibonacci relationships for how the branches grow and the outgrowth of flora. 12 times 12 is 144, so it's 12 squared. In astrology, we have 12 signs of the zodiac. And then we have 12 possible locations for the ruling planet of that sign of a zodiac within the splay of the kind of planetary flow. So 12 is quite important. 12 times 12 is quite important. 144 is fundamental as a Fibonacci number. And these are also easy to code around. You know, there's whole traditions of pixel art. There's traditions of art doing digital pixelization, and that's just what I've chosen. But you can do anything you want. You can use these color proportions that the planets imply, and you can paint canvases just trying to get your own sense of, oh, this is a Saturnine moment that you want to reflect in your canvas. So you're going to use more black, and there's some Venus, so you're going to put some white in. There's infinite number of extractions and applications for this idea of using the planetary colors of a moment in time to reflect that moment of time through art and through canvas and through color. I'll say this here, there's different ways to approach in the tradition the triplicity lords. What I've chosen to do is use just 2 for each sign. After Greenbaum, after Ptolemy, after a lot of others, the day and night ruler, it fits with the idea of polarity that's so fundamental in astrology. You have 2 triplicity lords. So, but look around me, it's a Venusian time, and so I'm out here around white and just trying to tap into this Venus. If you put the planetary color art that will be created on my website for this moment of time of the release, you'll see white dominates, or there's a whole chunk of white because of Venus's assignment over 2 signs, and then Venus's assignment over everything in Capricorn right now. Venus is a triplicity lord of Capricorn by day, so it gets a more dose of white for that because we have 3 planets in Capricorn. My main task with this is I want people to tap into the power of color, the almost non-verbal power of color. You know, when you witness a colorscape, it does something unconsciously to you. It gives you some kind of energetic that you can't really get otherwise. So you look at color, for example, I was in the Rothko Chapel in Texas, in Houston. You just sit in those blacks and those shades of blacks, and it's a somber place, it's a religious place, it's the depth of the power of black is what's being delivered. And that's what reality is trying to tell us at all times. You know, 2020, these color squares were dominated by black because everything was ruled by Saturn in Aquarius. When we had many stelliums, for example, February 2021, new moon in Aquarius, it was a black color over reality using these color assignations. And it was a black time. We were all locked down. The world was in a crisis and fear and anxiety about COVID, and the world changes and the government changes around what was happening on COVID. And it's just a perfect example of how the colors, just feeling in the colors, showed us what the reality was. But we're using the astrological movement to determine what those colors are. So that's the power of working like this that I want to impart on you, and you can do it for your own natal chart. Everybody has an own mix in their chart. You might be more of a Martial person like me. I've got so many planets in Mars ruled signs. It's the color of red and the vibe of red, and that might help me understand myself. It might help me process who I am and what I'm here for. Maybe I need to be wearing more red to reflect that. Of course, I've got 2 planets in Libra, so now you can see I'm wearing black and white often. It's Venus and Saturn. But you can do this for yourself. This could be a jumping off place for your own color work, for the colors you want to be around. So in the Islamic world is another perfect example of this, because the flags of a lot of Islamic countries, you have that crescent moon, that's the moon, and then you have the star close to the moon, that's Venus. What are the colors of the moon and Venus? Green and white. And so they're using these planetary colors on their flags to represent the feeling of that religion or the feeling of that color energy. So all this is going to be written in detail in a paper I've written. The paper's called Time is Color, the rendering of planetary color squares. It's not out yet. I wanted to have it out now, but the editing just overtook me, and I want to have the writing as good as I can make it, hoping to get it out before Jupiter leaves Taurus. But that paper will go deep with citation and with astrological citation and all kinds of books that help me understand and process this. So look for that. I will announce it here, of course, and on the other outlets that I appear on. But that paper will go way, way deeper into these ideas. But starting now, my site's going to have the art. Anytime you want to see the color apportionment of reality through planetary rulership, just go to my site and there you go. So I just want to encourage you, the ephemeris is just data. It's just data. It's literally data of when the planet enters a sign or when the planet is positioned at a certain place in the reality. And I want folks to like break out of the idea that we have to look at that data in the way that everybody's always looked at it. You don't have to do that. You can look at that data in any number of ways, and you can get creative about how you want to reflect that data. And this is sort of my offering to that at some level through this color art form that you can have. You can blow these color squares up and put them on your wall. And I may offer those on my site at some point in the future where you can order one from me and just have a big canvas right above your bed, for example, maybe of the moment you met your spouse or whatever you want. These are ways to feel into reality through color. More than anything, I think with Pluto coming to Aquarius now for 20 years, we need to break out of what has formerly encased us and come up with some new innovative versions of everything we do. In astrology too, astrology is on the table for reinvention, and I want you to reinvent. I want you to.